Hello, and welcome back to Financial Freedom for the Average Person. I'm Oba Vincent, and today we're going to talk wealth and expenses, and we're going to focus on income. This is a longer chapter, and I'll divide this up into income and expenses, and there's a lot of exercises that we'll do as well here. But first thing, coming back to wealth, simple definition: assets minus liabilities, or income minus expenses. Assets are on the big scale, what all you got and what do you owe, and where's your net worth. And then on the micro, how much you bringing in, how much you spending, because those two directly relate. And this chapter, I'm looking at maximizing what you're bringing in, your assets, and your income, while minimizing your liabilities and expenses. Um, when we talk about income, this one I'm dealing more with real income, your tangible income. What are you making? How are you getting money today? Then later on in the course, we'll talk about investments and things like that. It's how you make money more on the strategic side, looking more the long term. And one of the terms and tools that I use a lot, and we'll talk about, is compartmentalization. And separate and conquer, divide and conquer. I use a lot of different accounts. I always like to have little pockets set up to catch different things, so I'm more in control. And what I found, if everything blended together, I lost control, and I like control. All right, so let's more a little bit about on the compartmentalization. So, um, an example, bank accounts and brokerage accounts, things like that. I easily have over 20 separate bank accounts. I Most of my bank accounts, military guy, is with the USAA, but I also have accounts at Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America. I want to have accounts when I'm traveling that I can go into a bank. One of the key things is, and we'll talk a lot more about setting up bank accounts later, and we'll do some exercises on that. Um, Never pay for it. I have to be paid when I open an account. And there's lots of ways to find that. I never pay a fee on accounts. If you're a military background, usually you can get the fees waived. If you're a certain age, if you're a student, if you're lots and lots of accounts do not charge. Um, I will mention, if you hear the noise in the background, here in Utah, we live just south of Hill Air Force Base. So every now and then, some F-22s or F-35s come streaking by. So, and they do get a little noisy. Sound of freedom. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about separating your accounts and things like that. A big one for me, and when I found it, was an account for travel. And I used to travel for work. And early on, all the money went into one account. And what I learned was it just got spent at the grocery store, got spent for gasoline. It just went in with everything else. And it seems like whatever was in a checking account got spent. Um, but what I started doing is I started taking that and funneling it into a separate account. And it was just our travel account. And I also started learning, wow, if I skip, and by the way, I love Taco Bell, Subway. I can pretty much live on those two places uh, indefinitely. So I would travel and I would have an allocation of $50 a day or $30 a day to eat on. you know, I would tend to eat for 10 or $15 a day. And I always stay at hotels with free breakfast. Sometimes I'd stay at places like Homewood Suites would have free dinner too, or Drury, which is great. It had free dinner every night. And what I would do is I would build that money. Money built up fairly quick. I traveled a good deal, and I found that I could pretty much fund our annual vacations. And just by skimping on my travel, which, like I said, I love Taco Bell, so it was not losing at all. So the idea, and I'll come back to this again and again and again, is uh, not to live poorly. The idea is to live extremely well, but cheaply. So so we took great vacations. I took a lot of times on cruising, a lot of times traveling around national parks, really doing things. But I did it with money that didn't impact the goals and things that we're going for. And by segregating, we could do that. Okay. One of the other things I'll talk a little bit more about is setting separate accounts, found money, and we'll talk some more about different types of money. Okay, so here's the real income strategies. Okay, first, I know a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. You have your main job, the money comes in, you have all the bills, you have credit card debt, you have issues that you have to deal with, and lots of times the immediate uh, needs and concerns take away from the looking at the future and getting the money together. So one of the techniques that I talk to people was when you get a raise, take half of that and put it toward your investments, retirements, or to one of your special accounts. Uh, and make sure you're like if you have a 401k match, and this is where I met a lot of people. They weren't putting the 5% in that they needed to put in to get the 5% from the employer. And you got to do that. You got to take all the free money you can get when you can get it, because all those things, they come and go. So you need to make sure you do that. Again, the way of it is just if you're getting a 3% raise, take 1.5% of it, put it toward that. Then it's always important, and I felt you got a raise, take that other 1.5%, and it's a raise. So use that and enjoy it. You earned it. You deserve it. Now, another area is everybody has side hustles. And my second job was the reserves, Air Force Reserves. A fantastic side job. Highly recommend it. Um, but when you're doing those side hustles, again, take some of that, make sure those are going into your special accounts as well. You count on them, but just to that. And my last area was always the found money favor. And I was always looking for opportunities, still looking for opportunities to increase my income in real or soft money. Now, what's soft money? Soft money is gift cards, things like that. So I've done things like picked up items at garage sales. We used to call it treasure hunting, and then I would sell them on eBay or Facebook. And and actually, one year, just picking up at a flea market calculators and reselling them on eBay. It was like a year and a half we did that, and I generated over $30,000 that I put right into the kids' education. That was where my found money was going. Then I do a lot about open and close credit card accounts. I'll talk more about that later, and bank accounts and the give me cash bonuses. Then there's lots of sites like Rakuten and MyPoints. MyPoints is one of my favorite. The newest one out there is Capital One Shopping. They really have started putting out some good offers. And so if we're going to buy something online, I'll buy it through MyPoints. If I'm going to Walmart, I know what I'm going to get. I'll go ahead and online go through the MyPoints portal, go ahead and buy it, and maybe pick up, 400, 500, 600 points, my points. Every 4,000 my points is a $25 gift card. Could be Amazon, could be in my case Taco Bell, whatever I want to use it for. But pretty much, you found out, we could fund going out to eat pretty much full time just off of these little found money areas. Anyway, just some little tricks and techniques there. Now, bottom line, we're gonna get more detail on generating income later on the course, but the goal is the ability to live well now and live better later. Also, something I'll talk about quite a bit. Value has nothing to do with costs. Uh, when example, when I go on a cruise, and we like cruising, so we cruise a lot. Um, I think we've spent now over 2 years actually on ships. Yeah, so yes, we like cruising a lot. But we usually pay much less than the typical person. But there's again strategies on how we go on that. Um, I uh, I also have a blog on traveling where I deal with that. But the next part of the course, we're going to get into expenses and how to control it. But first, we're going to do a little exercise, and that'll be the next video. Thank you.